Hi everybody, I am excited to be starting Elemental Elul number 2. The question is, what is a new year? A few times a week, I'm going to put out a video with a question and an activity and some sources that you can learn to make this season that much more meaningful than it was before. Definitely check out Elemental Elul number 1, where I was in the sanctuary asking the question, what is a sanctuary? But today we're asking a different question. What is a new year? And I think the question is bigger than that. It's what is unique about Rosh Hashanah? What is different about our experience of a new year than maybe someone else? My mom used to say that Jews are lucky that we have the chance to start over at least twice a year. And I think we can ask the question, what is different about Rosh Hashanah and New Year's that's different about what's happening in January in the Gregorian calendar? Or what's happening that's different than Nisan, the first month of the year, while Rosh Hashanah, which is in Tishrei, is in the 7th month of the year? What's happening to that? Why are we calling this the New Year, Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year? And so what we're going to do is I'm going to share some sources. I'm going to outline the activity that we're going to do, and we'll bounce back and forth between those two. So I'm going to share my screen for just a moment here and learn a piece of text. And the thing I'm going to show you is the source sheet that's linked to this video. You can find the Google Doc for it. And this is just a PDF, but it's a Google Doc. It's the same thing. And here, obviously, it's not a link to the video because that's what we're doing right now. And so I want to share with you this first Mishnah. It's the Mishnah of Masechet Rosh Hashanah. And it says something pretty interesting. There are 4 New Years. The first of Nisan is the new year for the kings and for festivals, right? So that's the month that Passover is in. The first of Elul, which was only last week, is the new year for the tithe of beasts. And Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon say that's in fact the first of Tishrei, the month to come. And then I've bolded the line, the first of Tishrei is the new year for years, for the Shemitah and Jubilee years, for planting and for the tithe of vegetables. Right, this is the one that Rosh Hashanah is connected to. And then the first of Shvat is the new year for trees, according to the words of Beit Shammai. Beit Hillel says, that that's in fact the 15th of that month, which you might know as Tu B'Shvat. And so what's interesting about this text is asking a really interesting question about what is a new year really? Is a year really one thing? What we're learning here is that a new year is not just one thing. It is a chance to start counting for a particular thing. So for me, and for this moment, as we prepare for Rosh Hashanah, we should look at this bolded line, the first of Tishrei is the new year for years. So that's what's different about this Rosh Hashanah. This new year is that this is how we measure time passing. When we count how long have we been doing this, how much time has passed on the count of the years. As you know, we are in 5780, and where our new year is about to be 5781. This is what that is about. This is about the counting of times. It's also one of the reasons why we start with the subject of the creation of the world. It's because we're counting years, because we're counting time, we're counting from the creation. We're not that the literal year is a creation, but that's our starting point to think about what is a new year. It starts with the question of what happened at creation. And I would also point out that in this text, you see that it's also the new year for planting and for the tithe of vegetables. And I know for me, one of the reasons why I find this so interesting and so meaningful is because what this means is that this time of year, we are planting the seeds of our future selves. We are planting for our potential. And that's kind of amazing. And so when we start to think about the years passing or time passing, what we're experiencing is the potential of ourselves, the potential we want for ourselves at this time of year. Now, of course, we could assign that idea to every new year, but I think it very much comes out of this year in particular. And so the next source I want to share with you is the very first few verses of the Torah. Breshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. When God was creating the heavens, when God was creating, it was the heavens and the earth. And I'm just going to read the English here. The earth began the earth being unformed and void, meaning the world was in sort of a chaotic place, with darkness over the surface of the deep, and a wind from God sweeping over the water. And you can imagine this sort of powerful creative moment where the world's in chaos and God is present in that chaos. Now, chaos isn't an inherently bad thing. It's just an experience of a lack of order. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness God called night. This is a moment where God is taking the chaos, which our lives probably feel like, our years sometimes feel like, and creates order of them. There's light and there's dark. They have names, day and night. And so we can already see some of the lessons we can learn from creation. That perhaps our lives are in total chaos, and Rosh Hashanah is a chance for us to bring them into order. And God then ends, there was evening and there was morning, a first day. That first day of our year, that first day of who we want to be in the year to come, is Rosh Hashanah. And I would point out that when God saw that the light that God created, God saw that it was good. Order is helpful to us. It makes our lives easier to manage, easier to navigate. Order is helpful. It doesn't make it better than the chaos, but it definitely helps us live a life. And so I think part of Rosh Hashanah is asking ourselves the question, how can we create more order out of the chaos of our lives? How can we take today, this moment, as we prepare for Rosh Hashanah, to give ourselves the tools to create more order in our life? And so what we're going to do is use those ideas for our action. And I'm going to share my screen again of the worksheet, and you can find it through on the description of this video. So what I've done is I've created this worksheet of questions that you can do individually. You could do it as a family. They're written in the I, but you could do it any way you want. See if I can make this big enough so you can see. This worksheet is questions for you to ask on any given day, on any given week, on any given month, at the beginning of the new year, to center yourself, to create order for yourself. So for today, if you were to use this morning, you might ask the question, and each unit, I tried to start with a place of, what am I grateful for? Gratitude is a powerful thing, and starting your time with gratitude allows you to place everything else into context. And then, just to use again today as an example, what do I want to accomplish today? What is inspiring me today? What do I want to do better today? What do I need to start today the right way? So let's take that last one, for example. If you know that sitting down in a quiet place at your desk with a cup of tea next to you, I've got a cup of tea here for me, that's a super important way for me to start the day off the way I want to. It helps me be the person I want to be. I know that if I start my day with a cup of tea, with a warm beverage as I sit at a clear desk, I feel better, more able to accomplish the day. And I think one of the things that inspires me as we're approaching the holiday and as we're approaching and working our way through Elul is the opportunity to share some words of Torah. That inspired me today. To think about how you can create a more meaningful holiday helps get me out of bed in the morning. I've added to this worksheet something that you could ask at the beginning of every new week, the beginning of every new month, what you might want to ask at the beginning of every new year. Now, this is just a starting place. You don't have to ask any of these questions. You can create your own worksheet, and that's the activity. Take a moment, find out what questions you need to ask of yourself to make your day and your week and your month and your year better. What questions do you want to ask as a family, if you're sitting with your family doing these questions? What could you be doing around the breakfast table or dinner table for the next day? What is it that you want to be accomplished the next day? What would you need to be better? One of the important questions I added for the new week is, who do I want to talk to this week? Who do I need to have in my life? Who do I need to be interacting with so that I can be the person I can be? And I think one question I asked for the week and then for the month was, what activity do I need to do this week that will make me feel whole? And similarly, what needs to happen every week to make me feel whole? Sometimes doing a particular thing can make us more engaged, more centered, more complete than if we don't do that activity. Maybe it's exercise. Maybe it's watching a particular television show. Maybe it's talking to a particular person. Maybe it's a game. I don't know what the answer is for you, but thinking about what things you need in order to feel like you is important. And I think that's what Rosh Hashanah and New Year and a new year is all about. It's about finding out what you need to be the person you can be. We all make mistakes. We all fail at the things we wanted to do and wished we could have done. And that's okay. Every year, every day, every week, every month is a chance to engage in that question anew. And so use this month. Get yourself prepped what you need to be asking yourself at Rosh Hashanah. What do your kids need to be asking? What do your parents need to be asking? What do your siblings need to be asking? That one's more complicated. Sibling relationships can be tough. But asking yourselves the right questions. What is a new year? A new year is an opportunity to be new, to create more order out of the chaos that your life was. The last thing I want to talk about is a piece of text from the Talmud. For those who know me, I love teaching Talmud, and I teach a Talmud class every Monday morning, and this was something we learned not that long ago. And you'll see here, and unfortunately I didn't update this, so when you look at your Google Doc it'll be different. It'll just say Worksheet, which is the thing that we just looked at. But and then you can see here I've translated this so that you can have this conversation as a family, if that's useful. But before we do that, let's look at this piece of text, which I think is so fascinating. It was taught in a Braita, which is an early rabbinic text, that the Tanaim, those early rabbis, disagreed about this point. Now, I've only showed you one opinion, but I think that's okay. Rabbi Eliezer says, in Tishrei, the world was created. In Tishrei, the patriarchs were born. In Tishrei, the patriarchs died. So that would be at Rosh Hashanah time. The world was created, which we talked about. The patriarchs were born and they died. On Passover, Isaac was born, so a little exception to the rule. On Rosh Hashanah, Sarah, Rachel, and Hannah were remembered by God and conceived. On Rosh Hashanah, Joseph came out from prison. On Rosh Hashanah, our ancestors were freed from slavery in Egypt. And in Nisan, the Jewish people were redeemed from Egypt. And in Tishrei, in the future, the Jewish people will be redeemed in the final redemption with the coming of the Mashiach, of the Messiah. Now, regardless of any of these specific things, which I think is interesting, right? The Talmud is saying all of these things happened at these particular times. And of course, not all of them happened at the same time. Some of them happened at Nisan, which is one of the other New Years, right? The first month of the year is actually in Nisan. But even still, the rabbis had this idea that certain events happen at a particular time. And the next paragraph, which I have not included here, is another rabbi disagreeing with all of the dates. So it's not about these specific events, which you may like or dislike or agree with or disagree with, all of which is fine. The point is that there are moments in our lives that impact who we are. And it's only upon reflection do we realize that those moments changed who we were, changed the trajectory of the life that we have. And just like for our ancestors, becoming pregnant, becoming freed, ancestors being born and dying, the world being created. That one obviously impacts all of us. The idea that on Tishrei, in Tishrei, the world will be redeemed. This is a perfect opportunity at this moment to reflect on the things that made you who you are. The way your life changed when something happened. How the trajectory of your life might change depending on what you do this year. And so I think for Elul, when we ask ourselves these questions, what is a new year? What is it that I can reflect on? We are able to shift the trajectory of where we want to be. I think that this year has so much potential, such opportunity to take the time to ask and to take stock of what is happening in our lives, to reflect on how your life has made you who you are, and take the time to find what inspires you to make the right choices for who you want to be and what you do next. So I hope you have a wonderful Elul. We'll see you for Elemental Elul number 3 in just a day or two. And let us know if this was helpful and interesting for you. And we'll see you next time for Elemental Elul number 3.